Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be bringing to you short video with Sergei Lavrov, who, as many of you know, is not just the best diplomat in the world, but of course is the foreign minister of the Russian Federation. And he was just recently in Antalya, in Turkey, during the diplomacy forum. That's what I will be playing to you later on in this video. But I want to start with the visit that is taking place in United States with actually I think one of my favorite presidents in the world, President Nayib Bukele, who is the president of El Salvador. So let me play this short video for you right here. He's visiting the United States. We'll be meeting with President Trump today. I will be definitely watching that meeting and the questions that will be asked afterwards, as they usually are at the White House. So this visit, I don't know if this is for a day or 2 days, probably 1 day, is going to take place. And after I finish this video for you, I want to play a short part of here he is arriving. Really cool president. What really impressed me was the interview that he gave on Tucker Carlson. When I heard his words and his approach to how he is fighting with evil forces. Very, very, very powerful statements there. Really cool. I like the guy a lot. I don't think he has any bad sides there, but you know, God only knows, right? So let me take you to that interview that Tucker Carlson had with President of Ecuador almost a year ago. And I remember when I watched it when it just came out. I'm gonna play a part for you that is not easy to hear, but that's what's going on. And he's just openly talking about it, which I appreciate very much. Let me mute myself and let's go straight to this interview about how the satanic evil forces are operating in the world.
So, yeah. MS-13 is one of the major gangs.
And they are satanic also.
That was my question. So very
I'm
little.
sorry.
No, but I would hope you will explain it, because very little has been written in the West about this.
They're satanic, yes.
But actually, literally, can you explain?
Well, they didn't start as a satanic organization. MS-13 started in Los Angeles, in the US, because Salvadorans weren't allowed to sell drugs by the Mexican gangs. So they created a gang that was called the 18th Street Gang, because they basically wanted to sell drugs in a street that was 18th Street over there. But then division started they started dividing themselves and started infighting. So they created the MS-13. And then MS-13 started outgrowing the other gangs, and they started exporting the organization to other parts of the US.
This is the aircraft carrier shelter you seized, previously owned by a small faction of about 8.
And when Bill Clinton decided to deport those guys, he didn't tell our government at the time, I'm deporting this criminal. They just, send them here. And they came, there were few, but unchecked. At the same time, some laws were passed to protect minors from imprisonment. And of course, the gangs used that to recruit 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. So at the beginning was, some youth causing harm assaulting, trying to control their territory, selling drugs, things that are bad, but probably not critical. But they grew, and they started controlling territories. A few years later, they were actually a huge international criminal organization that they have bases in Italy, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, the U.S. Basically, a lot of major cities in the U.S. will have strongholds of.
Right outside Washington, D.C.
Yes, of course. And you have in Long Island and
yes.
in L.A. It's a huge criminal international organization. So they grew and they started, killing more people just to get territory or to fight against rival gangs or to, collect debts or, money or whatever. But as the organization grew, they became satanic. They started doing satanic rituals. I don't know exactly when that started, but it was well documented.
Yes.
And in our arrest, we've even found authors and things like that.
Yes, I've seen them.
And so they became a satanic organization. And even when you sometimes when you interview gang members that are in prison, they would say, "I'm out of the gang." Of course, they're in prison, but they would say, "I'm not a member of the gang anymore." And when they asked them why, I remember I remember the news outlet that made it this, but it's a very well-known news outlet that made this interview with a gang member in person. We allowed them to go into prisons and do the interviews. And the guy that they asked him, "How many people have you killed?" And he said, "I don't remember." He didn't remember how many, probably 10, 20. He didn't remember. And then they asked him, "And what is your position in the gang?" He explained how he went up in positions, but I left the gang. I said, "Why did you left the gang?" And he said, "Well, because I was used to kill people, but I killed for territory. I killed to collect money. I killed for extortion. But I came to to this house, and they were about to kill a baby. And the killer that had killed tens of people, said, 'Oh, wait, what are we doing? Why are we going to kill that baby?' And they told him, because the beast asked for a baby, so we have to give him a baby." So he said that he couldn't resist that, so he left the gang. He's in prison because he's a killer, but he left the gang because he couldn't tolerate what he was seeing.
So human sacrifice was a part.
Well, in the United States a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago, I don't remember exactly, I saw the news that they were going to kill a young girl, or they killed a young girl, I don't exactly remember, because it was a satanic ritual. It happened in the U.S. a couple of weeks ago.
You may have come to the obvious conclusion that the real debate is not between.
I highly recommend you to watch the entire interview. I will attach the link down below in the description box. This was the first time when I actually heard interview with President of Ecuador, I have to admit. And now Ecuador is definitely on my list, on my bucket list of places to visit. It's truly an evil, and I think many of you are aware how bad that forces are. So I think that visit today is very important. I'm sure we're gonna hear some statements from President of Ecuador, who's fighting the same evil as we know. Now, to change the gears a little bit, since this is very dense and heavy energy that we are trying to remove from this planet, let's go to Sergei Lavrov. And he will be addressing the neutral peacekeepers in Ukraine, the idea of it. So let's take a listen to his answer to that.
You have stated on numerous occasions that it is a hostile act to even entertain the idea of foreign peacekeepers. Would, under any circumstance, the Russian Federation think about neutral peacekeepers in the territory?
the biggest advocates of something like stability force, sustainability force, are Macron and Starmer. And they are not thinking about any neutral force. They say we, Macron and Starmer, would be the countries who would provide the most of the contingent. They talk, by the way, to countries outside European Union, including Turkey. They talk, according to the rumors, they said that they are talking to China, which is a lie. India, Indonesia, they mention. My question is, first, President Trump, who, as I mentioned already, seems to understand much, much, much more about what is going on than any European leader, except I would highlight Hungary and Slovakia. These leaders are quite thoughtful, but it was President Trump who said first many things on NATO, on territories, and he said that when asked about this idea of a contingent, a force, a group, whatever you call it, there should be some discussion between the parties. They say, I think Macron said, no discussion with Russians. Ukraine is a sovereign country. It has the right to invite anybody. And they are inviting us. In brackets, I would repeat what Zelensky said. We don't need peacekeepers, we need fighting units. So make a wrong conclusion. But Kit Kellogg, by the way, yesterday said that why don't we divide Ukraine like we divided Berlin after World War II? Then he said he was misunderstood, misspoken, but everybody is missing the key point. Imagine, yes, leaders of Brussels bureaucracy, they say we must reach a deal which at the end of the day must guarantee Ukraine sovereignty. They, by the way, didn't mention territorial integrity, but sovereignty. Mm-hmm. My question is to them, you mean you want to have peacekeepers to keep the same regime which is now headed by Zelensky? You don't want to ask this regime whether it would be interested in implementing the international commitments, including UN Charter, regarding the rights of minorities for national minorities, language and religious rights. Nobody is raising the issue. So my conclusion is that by ignoring the gross violation of all the international norms about human beings, by ignoring these norms and violations by Zelensky of these norms, and at the same time by discussing deployment of something military, call it peacekeeping, call it stabilization force, on the remaining part of Ukraine, they want to use this force not to keep peace, but to keep and protect the Nazist regime. And this is key. Everything else is smoke screen.
I have to say this is one of the clearest explanations of why they don't want the peacekeepers in Ukraine. And if they still don't get it, which of course they get it, they're just playing dumb. Actually, they are dumb. They are dumb and they are playing dumb. But couldn't be explained in the most clear way than Sergei Lavrov just did. So what else to say? Pretty much everything on point, right on track, exactly what's happening. Now, I came across a clip on Instagram from someone who was not Trump supporter, and I decided to play it for you because I didn't know this information and I learned from this person. So why not to share it with you guys? And then we will go to a fantastic comment left under my latest video. So let's take a listen to someone who was not Trump supporter at all.
I have never voted for the guy, but I can tell you the moment that I changed my mind about him, and that was in Butler, Pennsylvania. And it wasn't just because of what happened there. It was because the day before, which was a Friday, the investment group that controls the assets for the Bushes and the Cheneys sold every single bit of their DJT, aka Truth Social, stock. They sold every single bit of it. And then the following Tuesday, they claimed, oops, that was a clerical error. We would like that back, please. Coincidentally, the only other time that this investment group has sold off all of a stock was in the first week of September of 2001, and it was American Airlines stock. Weird, right?
Interesting, right? I didn't know about it, guys, I have to admit. So follow the money, right? And you will find a lot of answers to many questions. And since we are on the topic of questions, I still was following up on the suspicious, not so suspicious anymore, helicopter crash in New York City. This comment is left just 3 hours ago, but it gives a lot of details, and I will read your comment because I think it's fantastic, and I appreciate you guys leaving those comments. Few of you left similar ones, but this one goes into really details. From Kirby von Karstein: due to your videos talking about the helicopter crash, I have gotten a bit curious and looked into this whole thing. Siemens Energy Incorporated, a US subsidiary of the German Siemens Energy AG, was involved in a giant corporate espionage scandal. During the trial, they pled guilty to stealing tech secrets from General Electric and Mitsubishi. They were hit with a $104 billion penalty, though the court argued the conviction was more important than the fine. Shortly after the case was over, one of the prosecuting attorneys, Jessica Aber, was found dead in her sleep. In February, Siemens Energy AG's chief financial officer, CFO, Heinz Joachim Neuberger, I think that's the name, deleted himself. I would say this accident involving the helicopter is suspicious, to put it mildly. Thank you so much for your comment. I didn't know many of those names nor those people, but this is how it works, you know. At the end of the day, because of the internet, we will connect the dots this way or the other. And this is the year of, as I say, revelations, truth coming out. It's gonna be really wild, right? We are just in April 14th, as a matter of fact. So there is many, many more months ahead of us to go through the discoveries that some people called the conspiracy theories, and some people just knew about it for a very long time. So with this being said, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I will attach all the links down below in the description box. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure to go there. It's Ania K_44. It's right here. Make sure to follow me there. With this being said, if you want to support my work, the best way is by becoming my Patreon or joining the membership of my channel as well. And hit this like, it's free of charge. Subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, if this content brings you any value, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And with this being said, have a wonderful week, lots of love, and remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity, and I see you in another video. Bye everyone.